Oh, I'm excited. On one side, you got Superman, man of steel, so strong, nearly indestructible, capable of beating any bad guy in a fight. You've also got Lois Lane, super intelligent, thinking through all the bad guys' schemes, trying to think of a way to counteract them. But then on the other side, you got Lex Luthor, also very intelligent, but has a ton of people working for him. They're too scared to turn on him. He also has a ton of money, so he has access to anything he wants. And who the heck is this? Well, what's up, guys? Mason the Rock Henderson here, and this is Superman and Lois Season 4, Episode 7, A Regular Guy. So yes, Clark's secret is officially out to the entire world now, and as I've said before in my past reviews, this is not something I really wanted them to do for this season. I understand it to a point, because clearly Lex is trying to force that issue. He's trying to utilize the fact that he wants to keep it a secret, and is now sending people to try to harm him to show that he is actually Superman. So I understand it from that point of view, but also think about it this way. If he's trying to expose you as Superman, isn't there a chance that maybe he wants you to reveal your secret to the world? Don't you think that's a possibility as well? I think the idea is he thinks Lex believes he's so desperate to keep a secret that he will let innocent people get hurt to keep it a secret. But personally, I see it as more of Lex is trying to force this, and now he has. I'm assuming this is part of Lex's plan, is for him to be exposed, because now everybody knows. Because obviously Superboy's going around, they're going to assume it's one of, if not both of his kids, so now they're exposed to the open world too. And in Season 2, they had a whole story about how the fame and the celebrity that comes with being exposed as a superhero can really change you as a person. So I don't see this as a good thing for the family. Now, I think the scene where he does decide to show himself in the diner, I think that was very well done. It shows him really trying to think about, what are my options here? And just realizes the best way to keep everybody safe is to just take the bullet. Yes, it means he'll reveal himself, but it takes away any risks of somebody getting hurt in the process. But even then, to then go and expose himself to the whole world, for me, that was not the best move. If anything, he can talk to the people in the diner and just be like, hey, there's a reason why he's in here right now. It's because Lex wants me exposed. Lex wants my secret known by everybody. Like, this is very important to me and my family that we are not just exposed to the world like this. But that's not the route they take with it, and I feel like that's a mistake. And one final thing to talk about why this is a mistake is look at what happened when Lex did figure out Clark was Superman. Look at everything he's done this season since he's figured that out. How he's gone after Lois and her father, how he's gone after some of the closest people in their life. This is what can happen when a bad guy figures out who you are, and yet we're not going to talk about that at all. Because in this episode, Lois talks to the boys about why the Kents were so desperate to keep Clark's secret a secret, but she makes it sound like the only reason they did it is because he was young, and if the government found out or somebody else found out, they might try to take him away, experiment on him, do all this stuff. And so because he grew up under that type of parenting, that's why he's doing it to them now, without really discussing all of the benefits of having a secret identity, why it keeps them safe, why it keeps them down to earth and humble. We already saw Jordan whenever he got a little bit of fame in last season, he was flying off the handle, and look at what happened to him this season. He felt indestructible, he felt unbeatable, and he went out and nearly got his father killed in the process. So there are so many examples of why exposing this is a bad idea, and yet it feels like they just want to ignore all those things and just, nope. We're gonna tell everybody that Clark is Superman. It's a good idea. It's going to save the day. And I think it's dumb. I could be the only one that thinks this way. But some of the other side stories, we do see Timmy going off the handle on Jonathan because he thinks he cheated because he thinks he has powers. I do want to see that scene now that Timmy knows Clark is Superman for sure. They said they were going to go apologize to him. Because obviously for Jonathan, as he said, he didn't have powers then, but it's not like he can prove that to Timmy. I would like to see how that scene plays out. We also see Kyle and Chrissy talking about starting their new life with a baby, but they can't afford a house, so they're trying to sell everything. That just all feels like random stuff. I thought it was a nice gesture for Clark and Lois to step up and try to help them out with some finances. But other than that, I don't really see the purpose of this story. And I will say I was kind of glad whenever we did get to see Jimmy. We got to see Clark talking to him at the end. I was glad his reaction was kind of a, oh man, the way you bonded, that was genius. Clearly realizing that Clark kept a secret from him for all this time for a good reason, not being all upset and hurt by it. One thing I will say about those flashbacks, because we see Clark didn't go to the final game, but they still won anyway. I don't know why Clark didn't just say he got hurt, like show up with his arm in a sling or something like that, just to be like, yeah, I'm so sorry, I ended up dislocating my shoulder because I tripped at home. I feel like that would be the easy way to get out of this without just making up something that makes Jimmy go, oh, you just didn't want to be there. But who knows? He was younger back then. Maybe he hadn't thought of stuff stuff like that. Whereas now we do see he's willing to pretend to be hurt to convince people, oh, he's not actually Superman. Yeah, all in all, I mean, it was a fine episode. Again, I do think that scene where he decides to take the bullet in the diner and expose himself as Superman in the diner, I did like that scene because there's a lot of good acting in that moment, and the music really helped as well. But I think the ultimate decision to go on the news, tell everybody who he is, I think that's a dumb decision. And personally, if it's not part of Lex's plan, I think that's dumb writing, because it feels like something Lex is trying to force. But those are all my thoughts on this one, so on to the next episode. I'll see you there in a sec. And now episode 8, Sharp Dressed Guy. So, I have to admit, they have at least decided to take a very 50-50 stance about revealing to the world that Clark is Superman, because we do see in this episode the problems that come with it. You got paparazzi hounding Jonathan and Jordan. Candace nearly breaks up with Jonathan because she's getting hounded just for dating him. This is part of the problem with revealing it. So I'm glad it's not just all roses and smiles and happiness, because again, there are problems that would come along with this. And I think those were shown whenever we saw season 2 on this other world, and the, I don't know, what would we call them? The Tanek family? We saw what happened to them. We saw how despicable they were because they were basically worshipped as gods on that earth. So I really do appreciate this decision, and I don't know exactly where we're going to go from here, because obviously Jonathan does manage to convince Candace to stay with him, so that hasn't hurt him yet. But even just not being able to go out and do whatever because they've got paparazzi coming after them, that's going to be a problem for them. And we're already seeing where it feels like it's a lot. They feel overwhelmed by it. But obviously this is not something they can just go back on. So I don't know where this is leading to exactly. But as far as Lex's plan in this one, I think it's pretty clever. I mean, technically it's Amanda's plan. I don't know how I feel about the fact that she's sort of taking over. Because honestly, I just don't really find Amanda that interesting. She's just interested in Lex. That's her whole thing. And so she wants to, I guess, prove herself to him by helping him complete his goals so she can be with him. That's much less interesting than this deep-seated hatred that Lex has for Superman because he's not from this earth and he's scared of his powers. And then for Lois because she took away 17 years of his life based on a lie. That is much more interesting of a dilemma than what Amanda's got going on, and yet she's kind of now spearheading this whole plan. So I feel like it does take the stakes down a little bit, because if it were Lex going up against them, if it was one of Lex's plans, I feel like there would be a lot more danger at stake, a lot more possibility of collateral damage. He's very much I'm going to get the job done no matter what it takes, where she's trying to build up his public image, make him look good, while still completing the plan. There's a lot more to hers, there's a lot more nuance, there's a lot less of a get the job done no matter the stakes. So that is a decision that I think might take down the intensity of these final few episodes. But that being said, her plan does work in this episode. She manages to convince Lois to come on the little talk show. Interestingly enough, hosted by Tom Cavanaugh, playing a different character. I will admit I wanted some sort of wink to the camera of him mentioning Harrison Wells or something like that. But this whole show did manage to paint Lois and Superman in a poor light. We know the lowest common denominator watching this type of show, so of course to them, he can edit it and make it look a certain way to make them both look bad, even though Lois was about to turn around the argument, and they don't even question why Superman flew out of there, even though Lois was about to basically turn it around on Lex. But of course, the truth doesn't really matter to him. He's just there to make a good story. Plus, on top of that, we do finally get to see Milton. We'd heard him mentioned earlier this season. I think he's the one that built the box that Superman's heart was supposed to be in. Again, still feels weird that we're just not talking about that, especially now that we're actually discussing the fact that Sam's heart is going to essentially take away Clark's powers because it's not fit for his body. So there is still that part of me that's like, well, his heart should still be out there because a real Kryptonian heart should not be smashed by a boot. But whatever, we're just not talking about it. But I did find it kind of funny that he just randomly shows up. Natalie and John Henry save him out of this car. And that was the end of the scene. I'm thinking, what was the point of all that? And then we do see later on that he's actually working with Amanda. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they did make a reference earlier this season. They called him a Brainiac. So I don't know if he's supposed to be Brainiac. I don't feel like you would introduce him as Brainiac this late into the season. Maybe there was a possibility for them that they could do like a spin-off show. And so they had this set up just in case, like for Jonathan and Jordan, maybe following them. Because I do feel like they knew going into this season that it was the final one, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know. I could just be grasping at straws here. But yeah, he does seem very intelligent. Seems pretty intimidating as far as being able to hack into John Henry and Natalie's suits. And who knows what he's about to do with the suit now to make it even better and more capable of taking down Superman. But I think they've done a very good job of setting up all these different pieces Again, I do look at this very much like a chessboard. Lex and Amanda are making their moves. Clark and Lois are trying to make their moves as well. And just seeing who's going to be able to come out on top, who's going to make the first mistake. And I do think a lot of it ultimately is going to come down to what Amanda is not willing to do that Lex would be willing to do. I think that's where they're going to fall short. Because she's going to worry so much about not just trying to please Lex, but also trying to maintain his public image. I think because of that, she's not going to be able to go as all out as Lex would if he didn't give a crap about his public image. But that'll do it for these 2 episodes, so with all that being said, cue the outro. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that review. I hope you enjoyed it. First and foremost, please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I love having discussions with people, so whatever your thoughts were, whether you agree or disagree with me, please leave them down below. Obviously, no spoilers. Also, if you did find yourself enjoying this review and you want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I also have a gaming channel as well as a channel where I talk about soccer, so if you want to give those a follow as well, that would be much appreciated. And lastly, if you want to help me improve upon the quality of these channels, I do have a Patreon. All of this is in the description below. With all that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.